Welcome back to the Today with Tally podcast, folks. We have a great show in store for you today. We sit down with a judge, with a Montgomery County, Texas judge, Precinct 3, Judge Matt Beasley. We talk about the life of a judge. But first,
hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
I know a lot of us out there that have always looked at judges as, oh man, it's the boogeyman. Oh my gosh, I'm standing in front of this guy right here or this gal, and they have all the control in the world over what my life may look like down the road, whether you gotten in trouble with the law or you're going through a divorce or whatever it may be. Standing in front of a judge can be very anxious. A lot of anxiety can come with that and a lot of fear of the unknown. But let me tell you something. My good friend here in Montgomery County, Texas is Judge Matt Beasley. And this is a very fine man with a fine reputation. And he is the epitome of a judge. He has served on the bench for 5 years. And with that, I'm honored to be joined by Judge Matt Beasley, Montgomery County, Texas, Precinct 3. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Brian. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. You know, when I saw you at the prayer breakfast about a week ago, you look great. And I was like, Judge, would you like to be my podcast? And you were like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, say when.
Absolutely. I'm a listener too. I love your show. And man, like we were talking earlier, your attitude and your positivity is remarkable, and I'm happy to be on the show.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. A lot of the stuff I make on my social media stuff, I'm somewhat selfish, I guess. I make it to try to motivate myself to keep going and to try to stay on course. So if it's out there helping everybody else too, man, hey, that's a bonus right there. Because I tell you what, you got to. A community that's looking good, that's feeling good, you're going to have a very positive influence in the community. And, that's what it's all about right there. And we need to try to keep people out of your courtroom and not in it, right?
That's right. Yeah. I would love for the court to be, I guess, going out of business. But unfortunately, business comes in every day. It's one of the busiest courts in the state of Texas in terms of the volume of cases that come through the court. And, I how you characterize, the anxiety that people have when they come into a courtroom. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I see people and they're like literally shaking. They're so nervous and riddled with anxiety. And I do my best to keep everyone calm and, just kind of like, let's talk this through. I definitely think there's a lot of people that are just kind of feel like the court and the court system is kind of like the unknown boogeyman. And I do my best to make people feel comfortable to where they can get their issue resolved and go about their day.
Sure. Now, we all know that, you are a honorable man and, you're a man of integrity. I've known you for quite some time now here in Texas. But let's get to know a little bit about who Matt Beasley is. Now, I know you grew up in Louisiana. What was your life like growing up as a kid in Louisiana?
Yeah, so I was, my dad, he was in the oil and gas industry. And I was born in Slidell. I moved to Mandeville. I lived in Mandeville most of my elementary school years until we moved to Dallas. I lived in Rockwall, actually. I was there for about 2 years, and then we moved back to Mandeville until 8th grade. And South Louisiana, it's hard to beat the people in South Louisiana. They're great. I had a wonderful childhood. I had a ton of friends. I still have one of my best friends still lives in Mandeville, and I go see him, and he comes up and sees me every now and then. But I still have ties to Louisiana. But eventually, once I got out of 8th grade, we moved to the Woodlands. So I moved a lot as a kid, and actually that just having to meet people and make new friends really helped me. Just, I guess, in a social aspect, I can meet people and get along with people really easy. And I think it was all the moving and having to make new friends that had me. I guess I just got really good at it. So I never met a stranger. And so I got here into the Woodlands, and I went to high school. I was a swimmer. I played football. And, I had a great high school class. I still keep up with a lot of my classmates. I'm class of 2002, go Highlanders, which they actually, unfortunately, they just lost to Willis last weekend, but it was a good football game.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes you a great judge too. Like you were saying, you're calm, you're cool, you're collective, you're outgoing. You can get you get along with a lot of people. Put Matt in the room and you'll make a friend. So that's always, very, a great trait. In being a judge, and to try to keep those anxiety levels, as low as possible, and say, hey, look, human to human. Hey, let's just have a conversation, right?
That's exactly right.
Now, what would put you on the career path of becoming a judge?
That's an interesting question. Actually, so when I graduated from high school, I went to college. I started my college right after high school. Actually, before I started college, I worked on the docks in Venice, Louisiana. I was mixing mud to load on the barges to go put in oil wells. And so when I had that job, it was right after I graduated. It was the summer, and I worked 7 days on, 7 days off, a 7-day hitch, and I worked 20 hours a day, and I got paid 4 hours to sleep. And that type of work was the hardest work I've ever done, and really made me appreciate what hard work is. And I started college, and as I was going to college, I worked full time at the fire station. I was a dispatcher. I worked a night shift. I did that until I put myself through the police academy at the University of Houston downtown. I was BPOC class of 205. I graduated, and the constable at the time, Tim Holifield, gave me my first job as a patrol deputy, and I was one of the original Woodlands contract patrol deputies. Back then, there was 5 of us. Now there's 80 plus. So I did that, and I got into law enforcement. I loved it. And before that, I was an explorer. I'd ride around with the constable's office all the time. I mean, I felt like I went through my training to be a patrol deputy when I was 17, 18, 19 years old. And when I was finally old enough to become a police officer, it was it was the best job, most, I probably had the most fun at that job because we had a good group of guys on the shift with us. And, if you like to deer hunt or fish, being a police officer is kind of like hunting. You're hunting for criminals. And, that was a blast. And I worked the night shift until I had a family, and then I went to days and went to detective, was a detective at the sheriff's office. And then I went to work for the county commissioner, James Noack. And while I was working there, the judge before me, she retired. And when she announced her retirement, I had a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I think you should look into running for this position. You'd make a great justice of the peace. And so I thought about it, I prayed about it, and I ran. And I was lucky and fortunate enough the good people of South Montgomery County voted me in, and I got been reelected, and I'm in my second term.
You did everything in order, and that's awesome. You work, that the blue collar job, you understood, an honest day work, right? And you're like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, though. I'm going to put myself through college. I'm going to be career oriented. I was an explorer growing up, so I understood a lot about law enforcement, and and I wanted to continue to serve my community, from the sheriff's department to becoming a detective to now being on the bench and serving as a judge here in Montgomery County. Now, all of your experience prior to you becoming a judge, has that helped you be a better relatable judge when it comes to the people that are standing before you?
Oh, absolutely. When I was on patrol, I was almost, I was doing the function of a judge. I was acting as a neutral third party to resolve whatever issues were going on. Sometimes I had to, enforce the law and take people to jail. Other times I just brokered deals between parties to make sure there was a peaceful outcome. So I did that as a full-time job. Yes, I wasn't sitting on the bench, but I was dealing with these disputes and working them out the best that I could. And then it also, my court, we deal with the lowest form of criminal charges, which is a Class C misdemeanor. But being in law enforcement, it made me understand what is a real criminal and what is someone who's just made a mistake. And a lot of people that come through the court for criminal cases, they're just people who made a mistake, or they're not bad people. They're not hardened criminals. And it makes me, I know I can look at someone and say, this person is sorry that happened and didn't mean to make that decision or made a bad decision. I can usually just size people up and tell, or that person I need to be a little harder on that person because they did it, they did it knowingly, and they're criminals. So it kind of just brought this real world experience. And I apply it every day now sitting as a judge. And I think it serves me well.
It's probably really easy for you, like you were saying, I can tell if someone's blowing smoke, or if I need to be more empathetic, with the person that, made, just either a slight bad choice, had a bad day. And, you're not out to ruin people. You're just there to, cite the law and come up with the best informed decision that you possibly can. Now, I got a question here for you. It seems as if violence against judges in our country is on the rise. And it's a shame. I've been seeing it quite bit lately. Is there any security protocols that you follow as a judge, or your fellow colleagues follow to keep you guys safe?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So the state Office of Court Administration, they went to the legislature and had them pass. I forgot what the bill's name was, but it was in reference to a district judge who'd been threatened, and so they passed all these different security protocols that we could utilize. So, for instance, in my court, we don't have a metal detector. It's just, there never has been one. We're looking at maybe getting one put in, but I have an armed bailiff. I actually have two bailiffs depending on how big the court docket is. I keep a pistol on me just in case. You never know who's going to come in here, especially nowadays how society unfortunately seems to be going. You got to be mindful of your surroundings and threats. So I have a pistol. The state of Texas allows me to block my address. So on my driver's license, I have the court's address. If you go to the taxing records or appraisal records of my property, it's all hidden, which is huge. Because someone could easily, be upset over a decision I make, and they could just go and Google my address and show up to my house, and that could just be, that's kind of scary. And I actually see people out in the community who don't agree with my decisions, and I've had people say things to me. So it is a a concern. And all of us judges, at least in Montgomery County, we all talk about security and how we can, protect ourselves and our families. Because in my court, I see the most people. So I see these same people at the grocery store 2 days later, and some people are happy with the decision and some people aren't. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the job. So it's not like I'm sitting in some appeals court, 60 miles away from anyone that may ever see me. I'm seeing these people at the grocery store, at the YMCA, or, at the gym. So I'm very mindful, and I'm happy that the state did allow us to shield our address to protect us and our families.
Is it common for judges to live in the same community that they actually preside in?
Yes, and especially with my court, the Justice of the Peace, it's considered the people's court. It's supposed to be closest to the people, because naturally, just in my job, most people will never go to court unless they're on jury duty or they get a traffic ticket, but my court is where everyone comes generally, and where they understand what is a court, how it functions, because the type of cases we hear. But like for a district judge or a appeals court judge, so a district judge, they're within the whole county, so they're not so close to the folks that I am. So yes, it's common for Justice of the Peace courts to be. I mean, they live within the community in which they preside over the court.
Judge, we have had a increase in crime and violence across America for the last 4 years now. It seems like 2020 really brought on some very unprecedented times in America. And really around the world. And it just seems like that snowball is getting gradually bigger and bigger and bigger by the year. Any real explanation on why we are just absolutely, as a country, getting so almost radicalized with a lot of the, there's a lot of bad influence out there. And it seems as if a lot of these younger folks, I mean, even up to folks that are my age and beyond, are very angry. Have you seen an uptick in the cases that you're taking on of just people just being very angry and just living this life of just depression and again anger?
I've noticed it just outside of the courtroom. Because I've thought about this a lot, Brian. I have kids that I'm trying to raise in basically a country I don't recognize anymore. But I really think it just starts with the youth and how different everything is. When I was in school, we would say the Pledge of Allegiance, and we would pray every morning. I mean, that was just something you did. You'd meet in an auditorium, and that's what we would do. No one does that anymore. And it doesn't even seem like people have pride in the country in which they live, which, I think a lot of it has to do with social media and just, and I don't know, but I do agree with you that it seems to be getting worse and worse as we go along. And I honestly don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. What's a day in the life of Judge Matt Beasley? Is this a very demanding job, or is this just a job for you?
No, it's really demanding. So I usually get up. I'm an early guy, so I'm up early. I'm usually here at the court before anyone else gets here, and that gives me time to go over my docket. And it is very demanding. When I sit on the bench and I have a docket, at the end of it, I'm emotionally and kind of physically drained. It's called like a decision exhaustion. Having to basically enter into all these people's disagreements and sort it out. It's very, very exhausting. And when I'm done, it's like I just ran a marathon. I mean, I really need to get some rest, because believe it or not, you think, oh, he's just sitting on the bench listening to people argue. It's a lot more than that, and it requires a lot of me. And when I'm done every day, trust me, I sleep good at night because I'm tired. And but it's a rewarding job. I feel like I'm doing a good service for the people here to resolve their issues. And I love doing it every day. It's a great job. I love it.
It's just one of those jobs. It's like being a police officer, a firefighter, EMT, a 911 dispatcher. It's such a demanding job that there's not a lot of fanfare in what you do, and what all those other jobs that I had just mentioned. But we need them and you all to have a productive and a civilized society. And without it, we have anarchy, and we have animals running amok across our country, and like we are seeing right now in ways that we have never seen as a country. But we need those positions filled.
Right.
Are you seeing, like, maybe sometimes, like, you hear some scuttlebutt about, man, you know what? This job isn't even worth it anymore, man. It's like, this is how we're being treated. I'm doing the best I possibly can. I've got friends that are sheriffs or that are city police officers, and they're handcuffed, literally, and they can't do their own job anymore. And you see the morale start to drop, and these folks may begin to start to look for new careers.
Right.
And that happens, we are in big trouble. Have you seen an uptick in anything like that?
You're absolutely right. The morale of law enforcement that I've seen over the years is at an all-time low. And I'm not talking about just Montgomery County. This reaches into Houston, and I still have a lot of friends that are in law enforcement. And a lot of it's just they feel like society doesn't have their backs for, to try to, go out there and protect us and keep us safe. They feel like society is just kind of shun them in their profession. So I can tell you, and I don't have any research or data on this, this is just a feeling for me, that probably every law enforcement agency, at least in this region, is probably having recruiting problems. And like you said, if we can't fill those roles and get good people out there to protect us, it's going to get ugly, unfortunately.
It's the jobs that everyone loves to hate, but we need them to function.
That's right.
In a civilized society. And this is the United States of America. We're having this conversation.
Yeah.
In
Venezuela. Isn't that crazy? I can't believe it.
I never thought I would ever see our country on its knees. Talk about crime. I mean, there's looting every night in these major cities. I'm waking up to this news and seeing horrifying images every single day. There was just this gentleman in LA. He was in a car accident, a fender bender, and his radiator got hit, and his car was smoking. And he had pulled over on the side of the road, and he popped his hood so the smoke could get out. And he's probably waiting on a fire truck and an ambulance. And highway robbery, it happens. This car pulls up. 5 bad guys get out fully hooded and with guns, put him on his knees. They get his wallet and go through his car, and they popped his trunk, took everything out of his trunk, and they were gone in 30 seconds. And this is a car accident on the side of the road.
That's sad. I speaking of friends from Louisiana, I had a friend tell me that one of his neighbors was in New Orleans, and it was an Audi vehicle, but it was a stick shift. Well, he got basically run off the road, and they were trying to steal his car, but they didn't know how to drive a stick shift. So, I mean, he got to keep his car, but how crazy. This guy is just driving down the interstate in New Orleans and was forced to pull over, and they were trying to steal his car, and lucky for him, they don't know how to drive a manual shift. And that was during broad daylight. Some of these cities, unfortunately, like New Orleans, I love New Orleans, but it's just getting too dangerous. It really is.
Well, I'm glad I learned how to drive a stick at a very young age and an old F-100 on the back country roads of Colorado.
An
So,
F-100.
oh yeah, buddy.
I
Put
learned
that
how to
sucker in
drive
a,
it on a Ford. I had a little Ford Ranger single cab, and it was a stick shift. But I don't even know if they make trucks anymore, manual trucks. I haven't seen one in a long
I
time.
think you have to. I think you have to special order them.
Order it, yeah.
Yeah, sad man. I love those.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's next. You know, you've been on the bench for 5 years. You've got this career that's really taken off. You're very well respected in the community that you serve. Do you plan on staying in this same position for quite some time? You know, of course, election allowing, or do you plan on perhaps even taking on a larger role as a judge?
You know, I think I'm pretty happy where I'm at right now. You know, you never know what tomorrow brings. I've certainly always been someone who, you know, my dad used to tell me, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. So I don't really make too long-term plans, but I do love the job. I plan to do it probably another couple terms if the good people keep putting me back in the office. But as for other things, you know, I don't really have any plans right now to do anything else.
Yeah, just, you know, you're focused on the now, the present. Yeah, that's a really good plan, because we really don't know what tomorrow may bring anymore. And, you know, you just keep doing the best job you can and loving on your family and doing the right thing in the community, as you always are. I see that all the time. And, man, I've noticed a big change in you. I mean, you are really looking good.
Well, so it's funny for your listeners. Me and Brian were talking, and I was informing him that he is the reason, the motivation for me to get fit. I'd gotten, so February this year, I realized how big I was getting, and you know, you don't know you're big until you finally just have that moment, and you're like, and it was me, it was trying to put my cowboy boots on. I'm like, man, I am getting so big.
You're breathing heavy.
Yeah. I mean, everything's hard when you're that. I was at that time, I was probably 230, and you know, my fighting weight's more like 180. And so I was watching your post, and I'd see the pictures of how big you used to be and how you just transform your body, and you were just like, had this never quit attitude. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get into shape. So I started eating better. I got a 1 pound jump rope, and I started jumping rope, and I jump rope 30 minutes every day. And then I'd walk about 2 miles, and that started in February. And I've done it ever since, and now I'm probably 174 or something like that. And honestly, my metabolism, I can eat whatever I want now, which is crazy, because when you're big, you would eat whatever you wanted to, but you would get big. Now I eat it, and I don't gain weight. I just still lose weight. I could eat 3 gallons of Blue Bell ice cream, and because I've got my metabolism going, it just burns it all. So some people are like, you need to quit losing weight. And I'm like, at this point, my body's going to do whatever it's doing. You know, I can't do anything about it, but I feel so much better. I really just think you should continue to encourage your audience and the folks that watch your show. You can do it. You just have to have the dedication and willpower to do it. And it's gotten to where it's not even an option for me anymore to work out and stay fit. It's just part of my day.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do? So tell me, how did you lose your weight?
Well, you know, in January of 2016, I had some really bad health issues going on with some pretty hardcore medical malpractice, and it would keep me in a chair for about 4 years. And I put a bunch of weight on. I got up to about 310 pounds. And finally, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, this is the example I'm setting for my 4 beautiful kids and my wife. And I don't recognize this man in the mirror staring back at me anymore. So I began to just kind of get out of my chair and started to get that 1% better every single day. It started with, just coming downstairs and getting out of my room. You got folks out there that suffer from anxiety and depression from, the challenges of life and the different obstacles that are thrown your way. And then, one day I walked to the mailbox and then the next was around the block. And then I started doing research into intermittent fasting. And I found that to be a very successful program and a tool for me to start doing. But anything I have always done in my entire life is I've always been all in on something. So there was a big learning curve there for me. I would end up in the emergency room twice with my new diet, of course. And now it's not a diet. It's a complete lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Because I was starving myself. And I went all in. And I was only eating one meal a day. And sometimes I wasn't getting all the nutrients that my body would need. And so I had crazy thyroid type issues there going on and blood sugar spikes here and there. And I, like I said, I would end up in the ER twice, not knowing what was going on with my body, felt like I was dying. But, I'd get there and then they figured it all out. That was my first out. I had an out. And the doctor said, you need to stop intermittent fasting. And I said, no. So what I did is I went through all those trials. And
so what is the intermittent fast? Is that just where you just don't eat?
Yeah. So still to this day, I've never missed a fast in over 4 years now. I eat one time a day. Sometimes I eat twice a day. So if I eat twice a day, it could be an event, like an event I would see, in the community where you're having a gala and you eat at 7:00. Well, that means that I'll have a very small snack at about 2:30 or 3:00, 300 calories or so. Just hold me over until that dinner, and then I'll eat at that dinner, and then I start my fast. But 99% of the time, I eat at 1:00 every day, and I finish my meal at 2:00. So I take that full hour to pump my body full of everything it needs for the next 24 hours. And now it's just like clockwork. I mean, my body has adapted well. In doing this, it has made me such a stronger man, mentally, and the discipline that comes with being an intermittent faster is unlike anything that you'll ever experience. Just last night, I mean, my kid plays baseball, right? And we played in the championship game. We get home at like 10:30 at night. So the kids are hungry. So what do they do on the way home? Well, Whataburger drive-through. So I get home and I'm smelling Whataburger and French fries and all that. And I'm like, you guys are killing me. I mean, I tell my family, you guys are killing me about 100 times a day. But then I need to look at that food and say, that's not my food. And this isn't my time to eat. Like, not only do I intermittent fast, but I also eat healthy on top of that, which has gotten me down to almost about the 85 pound level that I've lost over the last 4 years and have maintained that and still even continue to go down to my fighting weight. And I'm almost there, like I always pictured, man, what would I look like at 220? Like that was the weight I was when I got out of the Marine Corps, 220 pounds. And again, I was up to 310 and now I'm rolling at about 230, 231, 232. And I'm like, man, if I can get down to 220, that's my goal. I just want to see what I'd look like at 220.
Yeah. Well, so, and you were 300. So what are you at now? Like 240, 230?
230. Yeah. 230, okay. 231 right now.
Well, you're almost there.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting this last 10 pounds off is tough because, your body's so used to maintaining at a certain level. So like what has happened to me is like, I immediately would lose 20 pounds and then I'd ride it. And it would stay there for a while, kind of plateau. And then all of a sudden, another year would go by and I would gradually lose another 10 and then another 10. And like I said, now I'm rolling at about 230, but I think I'm starting to go down again because I've limited my calorie intake, because when you first start intermittent fasting, you're trying to eat everything you can. and so you're just trying to get so stuffed to where you can't walk for the next 6 hours. And now I don't do that anymore. I eat, I may have a sandwich, and some other protein there that I would incorporate into my diet, some carbs, a little bit of sugar, and that's it. So when I'm done eating, I am not absolutely full and stuffed. I would say that I would be at my optimum level of eating, on how to feel when you're done. You ever have one of those dinners and you get done, you're like, man, I feel good. I'm not overly stuffed. It's not like Thanksgiving every night.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, I do it. And I'm done eating at 2:00 every day. So when I go to bed at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I'm not so full that you can't sleep and all that. See, I'm the opposite of people that get like all fat and happy and they want a nap. I can't sleep if I'm full.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to be, like my belly's got to be down, food digested and all that stuff. And when you go into that resting mode, your body is literally now resting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another good thing about intermittent fasting that I've found is that we eat. As Americans, if you look around, and I want to challenge you on this. When you go out in town or even in your courtroom, well, there's probably no eating in your courtroom, but when you're out in town or if you're at an event or whatever it may be, look around. Everybody's always putting something in their mouth. They always got something. Everybody's always eating. Americans are eating like literally. If they were up 24 hours a day, they would be eating 24 hours a day.
Right.
And they're not always making healthy decisions on what they're putting into their mouths. And so this is why that obesity has skyrocketed in this country, is because people go out and they plan their day and their times and everything around food. Everything is around food. Like, it's like, hey, let's go on a hike. Okay, great. Let's go to breakfast here. And then we'll go to the store and go get all these snacks and all this stuff. And then we'll go on a hike. Well, you hike for an hour and you're eating for 5. You're meeting for breakfast. You're getting all these snacks. You're going on a hike for an hour, and then you get done. What are you gonna do? You're going to go to lunch, and then what are you gonna do after lunch? You come home, have a snack, and then at night you're gonna grab the chips and some granola bars or whatever it may be, and you're gonna watch sports. And whatever it may be, we're always consuming food, and your body's never taking that time to rest and relax and to repair and regenerate all of the organs that you have in your body that are being completely overworked 24/7, 365. So by being an intermittent faster, I get my body 23 to 24 hours a day of rest.
Yeah. I may have to try it, get on a plan like that. I mainly, when I decided to get into shape, I stuck with whole foods. So I would eat chicken breasts, ground beef, steak, fish, broccoli, and fruit. And it's funny I've had people ask, are you taking Ozempic, which is like some type of diabetic drug, but it helps people lose weight. And it's I kind of take offense to it, which I know they're not trying to hurt my feelings. They're really just trying to recognize that I've gotten into better shape. And, but it's taken me hard work. It's taken me every day, no matter what. I'm going to jump rope and I'm going to walk and I'm going to eat well. And the dedication that it takes, like you said, especially with your fasting, is something something you need to respect in anyone who does that. And I can tell you, when you have dedication like you do, it shows and it speaks to, the person you are and who you want to be. So I can tell you that I feel better. I think I'm just a happier person now. And honestly, getting outside in the sun is a very good thing. And that's what I do. I go outside, I'll jump rope and I'll walk, and it just is good for your mind, body, and soul. And I can tell you, your pictures and your positive attitude was a big reason why I said, you know what, I can do that too.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that until this morning.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, you were one of the biggest motivating factors for me. And look, I'm 40 years old. I'm still young. I can't live my life just the way I was living. And like you said earlier, it's a lifestyle. I'm living a different lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, being a judge too, I mean, let's face it, that's a very stressful job. So you pack in a lot. And at night when you do your, your exercising and all that stuff, that's when you're kind of, I'm going to unload some of this stress now. I'm going to go out and jump rope. I'm going to walk 2 miles, and then I'm going to have a good hearty whole food meal. And then I'm going to go to bed knowing that I did the best I could today. I feel good. And it shows in your appearance.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the first thing I noticed. And everybody always says, Brian, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I just got a really big suit jacket on. I look like Tom Hanks in Big.
That's the worst part about it is none of my clothes fit. Like, I mean, this shirt, but I don't want to go. I don't want to go buy new clothes because I just don't like shopping anyways. But yeah, all my suit jackets are too big now. My pants don't fit right. But I guess that's a good problem to have.
And you know what? I ain't never changing that. You want to know why? Because it's going to serve as a reminder.
That's
it's
right.
Serve as a reminder on how big I was when I got that suit jacket. And when I got that suit jacket, I was feeling pretty confident about myself. I was like 250, 260. I'm like, man, woo-wee, man, look at all this
looking good.
And now I put it on. I'm like, man, I thought I was doing really good when I bought that. And now I'm like, well, see, and that's growth. And that's what people need to understand. There's no instant gratification. Like we have developed this country of instant gratification. I want it now.
I totally agree.
Nobody's willing. I shouldn't say nobody. A vast majority of people aren't willing to put in the time, the work, the dedication, and the determination to make themselves better.
That's exactly right.
And it begins with starting. It begins and ends with you. And that's the great thing about intermittent fasting too, is because I have a log. I keep it in my phone. And I can tell you how many fasts I've done, how many total hours I fasted, how many hours I've been in ketosis, so on and so forth. And people are like, do you ever forget to hit start or whatever? I'm like, if I do, I always remember I ate at 1 and I'm usually done at 2. And, because that's the schedule I'm on, but I don't forget. And if I do forget, I go in there and I change the numbers around and I'm good to go. So can you cheat on there? Oh yeah, of course I could cheat on there, but the game isn't me versus you. The game is me versus me. So if I put bad numbers in there, I'm cheating myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm cheating myself. So why would you want to do that? Right. And so again, it keeps you accountable. And really, there's nobody out there that is harder on me in this world. There's no motivational speaker. There's no drill instructor. There's nobody harder on me than I am on me. And if people have that type of attitude, you can do a lot. And again, it begins with, your weight and your appearance and the confidence that comes along with it. Because let's face it, when you're overweight and you're sad and you're depressed and, you're anxious and you're riddled with just pain and anxiety and all that stuff, you're going to put that out there. You're going to put that negative, emotion out there. But if you're feeling good about yourself and you're positive and you're confident, and it shows, your skin begins to have better appearance, those rashes that you may have gotten at one point start to go away. The water intake completely clears and flushes you out, and everything else around you starts to improve because you start to look at life through different lenses.
That's right. I totally agree.
Well, listen, Judge, I know you are an extremely busy man, and I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. The work you do in the Woodlands and in Montgomery County and in Texas, is truly admirable.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Brian. And I definitely need to get with you so we can go over this fasting thing. It sounds like maybe it might be something I want to try. So, but yeah, we've got a couple dockets this afternoon, and but I really do appreciate you having me on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. You got an open invitation anytime. You ever want to get on here and have a nice, genuine chat, you're always welcome.
Absolutely. And thank you, brother.
I do want to get with you too about that intermittent fasting.
I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, I'd be honored to kind of share some of the tips and the tricks that I've learned. And I do consider myself an expert, at this. I read a book before, 10,000 hours makes an expert. And I've got 4 years.
10,000.
Yeah, I've got over 4 years in on this, and it's an everyday thing, and I don't miss it. I've never missed a fast. And I'm honored to say that I've never missed a fast. Sure, I've only fasted sometimes at 16 hours, but I've never missed a fast. And and I've got it all on record. No pun intended, right?
Yeah.
But I could teach you a lot of the things that I did wrong in the beginning when I went all in on this effort. And I have really helped and coached a lot of folks out there. Of course, there's no, fee, attached to this. It's just, hey, if people come to me, they say, hey, man, you're really encouraging me and inspiring me to live a better life. Can you kind of, show me a little bit about what you learned and take the positives, and then kind of shun away the negatives, and you can really begin to change a lot of people's lives around you. And again, you got a good community of people that are happy. We're going to keep people out of your courtroom.
Absolutely.
So that's the goal.
Well, I'll have to get with you on that.
I'd be honored, but we can't meet over food.
I was about to say
we're going to have to go walk, and we'll walk it out.
There we go. We'll go walk it out.
We'll walk it out. Folks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the program. It has never been easier to listen to this podcast. We're on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Simply search Today with Tally. Also, learn more about me and my personal story, and perhaps even get my new book over at BrianTally.com. That's BrianTally.com. Folks, remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. Until next time, for the Today with Tally podcast, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.